Hi everybody, Cecile here with Get Mental Podcast. How are you guys doing? I hope that everyone is hanging in there, and like I always say, I hope you guys are staying strong and positive. Things are getting prolonged more than we've expected, and so this month T and I are dedicating the whole month of August just helping you guys stay strong, stay positive, and stay hopeful. Hi, Tita Rosa. Thanks for watching. Any questions you have, just let me know. So, I'm going to jump right into the subject because I'm really sensing that a lot of people, including myself, are hitting a wall with this pandemic, and then the upcoming elections are creating a lot of stress and anxiety and mixed feelings for people. And the people I support on a day-to-day basis are expressing the same thing, and just people in my circle. And so I wanted to just, give you guys some real tools that you can utilize or reflect on to help you sustain yourself, to help you unstuck yourself if you're finding yourself kind of being in a negative or depressive spiral, or if your anxiety is really, really high. So I just want to quickly give you guys some tips. So what is hope? Hope is basically this this anticipation of something good or positive, to come along. And, it's not blind hope. I mean, certainly there are people who have kind of blind hope and unrealistic set of hope and expectations. But, what we're talking about here is having a sense of still positivity, and anticipation, like I said, that something good is still here, something good or positive can still occur despite what is happening currently in our lives. So the research is showing that the more hopeful people feel, the happier they tend to be, the healthier they tend to be physically and mentally and emotionally, and the happier their relationships are, the more meaning they seem to find in their lives, the more able they are to continue to pursue and achieve their goals despite adversity, despite really tough times. Because think about it, if you have the mindset of hopefulness, that's the cloud, that's the filter in which you're moving through the day and making sense of your experience. If you have that in you, right, it kind of gives you immunity. It's like vitamin C for the soul, because, even if things knock the wind off your sails, or you receive not so great news, if you have that hope, that vitamin C, for example, it'll help you bounce back quicker, and the impact of that adversity may not be as long-lasting or significant or deep, right? That's what hope can give us. So what are some of the ways that we can cultivate hope? Because hope isn't just a trait that we're born with. Hope is something that is a process. Hope can be practiced, and as a matter of fact, needs to be practiced and cultivated. And, hope is choosing to believe and live by a set of beliefs and attitudes about life, about people, about experiences. So ways that you guys can practice this in your day-to-day life, and you may have heard of this already. The first one is a gratefulness practice, okay? When we're grateful, we're naturally more hopeful. So gratefulness, there's a lot of science too, that emerging research that are showing that gratefulness, how it restructures and changes the brain, and how it's really, good for our bodies and our mental health. You could just start by naming one thing you can be grateful for that day. One thing, if you're really struggling with this practice. But for most of us, if we really sit down and take the time, you're going to be able to name more than one thing that you're grateful for. I mean, I'm grateful for this coffee. I'm grateful for my hand lotion, right? I mean, there's so many silly things that you can be grateful for. And then when you start to expand that inquiry, you can start to, maybe connect with the bigger things that you're grateful for. I mean, for a lot of us, oftentimes it's our family, it's our health, it's the roof over our heads, right? It's our job. But even outside of that, if you really intentionally reflect on the things you can be grateful for, there are abundant reasons for us to be, an abundance of reasons for us to be grateful, even amidst a pandemic, even amidst civil and political unrest, even amidst a president you may not like. Like, there are literally things that you can still be grateful for. Because you know what, guys? What we focus on is what gets bigger in our lives. What we focus on is what gets bigger in our lives. Where energy goes, energy flows. That's another way to think about it. So if you're not intentionally looking for the evidence of good, looking for the evidence of beauty and love, it's not always just gonna, come knocking at your door. Especially when you're stressed out, especially when you have a lot of, negative news or information that's coming your way. It's easy to forget the rest of the movie, and it's easy to just kind of focus and fixate on a few scenes of the movie. And, our brain has what's called a negativity bias. So that bias is always going to lean on what's wrong, what's not working, and what's unpleasant about life. So we have the capacity to step outside the paradigm and choose to also look at what is good and what is positive and what is present in this moment in our lives that are sustaining us, right? My breath, my eyes, right? This phone allows me to connect with you, My mind allows me to think on my feet and share with you some of these nuggets, right? There's so much within our reach, okay? So I'm bringing that point home because I really want you guys to try to practice this and see and feel the difference. You will feel the difference, when you have a gratefulness practice. And just start small, like I said. When I used to actively do it, I still do it, but meaning when I really was like systematically following it, now I don't feel like I need to do that anymore because it's embodied now, it's part of who I am now. So for you guys, one of the things you can do is write down 5 things you can be grateful for every day for 30 days before you go to bed or when you start your day. Okay, or whatever time of the day that you can commit to for consistency's sake. 5 things you can be grateful for every day for 30 days. Okay, it's so interesting how it can really shift our perspective and change our mood little by little as you go through it every day. All right, so that's the first thing. The second thing is fill your own cup. Intentionally fill your own cup with the little things or the big things if you can afford it. Or, if you have the means to do it, that give you joy, that give you pleasure, that give you a sense of calm and peace. That could be gardening, that could be, cooking, that could be cleaning or giving yourself, drawing yourself a bath or certain scents, around your house. Those little things, the cumulative effects of those little things goes a long, long way. And as a matter of fact, in life, it's not the big moments that make our life, amazing and extraordinary. It's the ordinary moments. It's the collection of small, satisfying, ordinary moments that fill our soul, that fill our cup. That's what really gives us joy. So see if you can practice finding ways to fill your own cup in the small ways, in the big ways if you have the resources. And again, commit to it. Commit to it for 30 days. If that feels too overwhelming, just try it for 3 days and see what happens. It's not going to be one size fits all. There's not going to be like one thing you're going to do that's just going to magically make you feel unstuck and hopeful and happy. It's a process. And by the way, feeling sad and anxious or irritable is not a bad thing, okay? Like, There is nothing wrong with feeling any of those things. And as a matter of fact, some of it is a normal response to what's happening. And life isn't just like this, linear line of happiness and stability. There's going to be bumps along the way. Life can be hard sometimes. It's not always fun and games, right? It's not always the highs. It's everything in between and how we move through it. So, the more anchored we can be on these little things, the more stable we will feel, especially during times of adversity. Okay? The other thing, and this is big, this is huge, especially in the field of psychology, and I'm just actually going to talk about this topic separately on another show because that's how important and huge it is, but it's basically called Locus of Control. So what we want, what we help people with, is to connect you to your own sense of internal locus of control, right? That, we want to strengthen your sense of agency over your life, regardless or in spite of what's happening outside of you. Because really, at the end of the day, we don't have control over other people, places, and things. We can only control our response, our behaviors, our attitudes, our thoughts, our beliefs, our interactions, and then depending on how we're showing up, that's going to have a cause and effect into how others will see us, perceive us, relate to us, right? So most of everything you're experiencing starts with you and how you're making sense of it, right? So there's a systemic stuff going on here, like the pandemic, the riots, for example. That's obviously going to affect us internally. But again, at the end of the day, it's how we're making sense of it. It's how we're relating to it. It's how we're moving through it that's going to help or hurt us, and help or hurt our relationships. So internal locus of control, that's a psychological term for it. And I am going to talk about that more at length at another talk because it is that important. So that basically is about focusing on the controllables, focusing on what you can control, right? Not who you can control. And oftentimes, if you guys look at the banter on Facebook, a lot of times we're trying to control other people's thoughts and beliefs. It's really pointless, Then that's another topic. But at the end of the day, what's really going to make us feel anchored and stable is if we have a few of these things. Self-esteem, positive self-esteem. That is, if you're fuzzy about what that means, that is having a pretty healthy, positive regard for yourself, okay? Self-efficacy. What does that mean? Self-efficacy is actually one of the things I look at when I'm working with people. And one of the things I assess for very early on, because that helps me help them. Because the lower your level of self-efficacy, the harder it is for us, people, to actually go for the things that we want and go for the relationships that we want. So self-efficacy basically means the belief that you can do it. The belief that you have the confidence, the capacity to go forward, to take the next step or to take all the steps. So it's kind of like a confidence thing if you want to think about it that way. But it's essentially about, I believe that I can achieve these goals if I just work hard enough. Okay? So it's hard to be helpful when your self-efficacy is very low. So in therapy, that's what we will help you with. We will help you with that particular part of you. And it's hard to be hopeful when you don't have positive regard for yourself. So we'll help you with self-esteem. Okay, this is what I mean by hopefulness is a practice. It's a process. It's not just something you're just going to wake up one day and feel hopeful. Especially if you want to sustain it and if you want to embody it. Okay, and not just be intermittently hopeful, meaning hopeful one day, hopeful, for 2 days, and then not hopeful for 1 week, right? Like you really can get to a point where this is more your baseline. This is more kind of how you operate in the world. But it will take some time if this is not, your natural state. And also, if you've had a lot of stuff happen to you, if you've had a lot of traumatic experiences, I know that firsthand because that's my personal journey. it can be hard to have hopeful, and hopelessness is actually, again, one of the markers that we look for when we're trying to help people, because the hopeless someone feels, the more their self-esteem is low, the less self-efficacy they have, and the less, you know, you're likely going to be able to pursue things and or feel good about your life or your predicament, right? It's just kind of a vicious cycle that keeps going. So again, to recap, you need a healthy self-esteem, you need self-efficacy, you need some internal locus of control, like I talked about before. We need social support. That is key. We all want to feel loved, supported, and a sense of belonging, okay? And we need a sense of spirituality. And I pause there because I know for some people that can be a controversial word, you know. Some people that listen or watch us may not have faith in God. I personally do, and if you don't, it's okay. No judgment here. But spirituality here means a sense of something bigger than yourself, right? Like, it's hard to feel hopeful when you are not, when your anchor is yourself and yourself alone. I mean, think about that. Right? If you're drowning in an ocean and your anchor is only yourself, I mean, your hope's gonna diminish pretty quickly, right? But if you have some hope that somebody outside of yourself can help you, or furthermore, a divine source or force, you know, in my world, that would be God. It just, already, it's a soothing balm that helps me get through something tough. You know, it doesn't take everything away, but it sure lightens the load. It sure helps me feel like, okay, I can do this. And so that helps with that self-efficacy that I'm talking about. So there's, you know, there's a relationship between our spiritual orientation, our faith, as others may want to call it, and our sense of hopefulness. And then the last thing I want to say is healthier coping skills. That helps us stay hopeful, right? So because if you're, you know, not coping in a healthy way, you'll create more problems, which in turn can perpetuate the cycle of hopelessness in your life. So I just want to recap because I know there's a lot of things here that I'm throwing out. Hopefulness is a mindset, it's a process, it's a practice. One way you guys can do to cultivate it is do a gratefulness journal for 30 days. Every day, naming 5 things you can be grateful for. If that's too hard, start with 3. If that's too hard, start with 1. Okay, but the idea here is to commit and be consistent. Okay. Third, fill your own cup. Find small and big ways to do things or be around activities and people that give you joy, that give you a sense of calm and positivity. Okay. Lean on a spiritual practice if you have one, and truly think about going to therapy if you're having issues with self-esteem, self-efficacy, like I talked about a few minutes ago. If you're having a hard time, you know, changing some core beliefs or negative thinking patterns, that's where we can come in and really help you guys retrain, reprogram your not just your brain, but just the way you move through the world, you know. But yes, we are doing a lot of cognitive kind of reprogramming, so to speak. I mean, sounds so clinical and dry, right? But we're also finding the reasons why you believe what you believe and helping you reframe that and redefine that so that, you know, it's more what we call adaptive. So it's more healthy and in proper perspective. Because a lot of times, you know, nobody's born with a perfect childhood and a perfect life experience. We pick up so much like bad stuff and incorrect and dysfunctional stuff along the way. So the way to think about it is therapists will help you kind of sort through some of that dysfunction and help you heal if there needs to be healing, or find new ways of being in the world. So therapy works, you guys. I can't overestimate that. the last thing, or the last two things I did share, was the internal locus of control, meaning focusing on the things you can control. Stop trying to control other people. Okay? Focus on you, your health, your response, your attitude, the way you relate to people, because that in turn is what's going to reciprocate the kinds of people, places, things, and experiences you want in your life. So you are a lot more powerful than you think. You know, you are a lot more capable than you realize. Okay? But without a sense of hopefulness, a strong sense of hopefulness, it's going to be hard for you to really believe that. And the last thing is spirituality. Having something outside of yourself, you know, a way to connect with your own version of God or the divine, having that to anchor your life in. Because at the end of the day, we were never meant to be alone. No person is an island. We are relationally wired for connection. And it literally hurts us on a cellular level when we don't have, you know, those kinds of supports, right? And God, the God I know, the God that I believe in, usually shows up through people in my life, right? The God energy, the love energy, you know, and there's other ways that I feel that manifests in my life. That's personal to me. So just think about that. And if you're kind of iffy about that, just try the other things I've suggested, or do some research, you know, on spirituality and mental health, because there's a lot of stuff that they're starting to recognize in the field. Lastly, I want you guys to know that you're stronger than you realize. Okay, you're already exhibiting hope in many ways. When you get up in the morning and you're feeling really upset or down, that's you demonstrating a sense of hopefulness, right? Maybe no matter how small, you're already doing it. I want you guys to understand and realize that you've already demonstrated to yourself that you are able to get through really tough times, right? Think about the last time you survived something painful or hard or heartbreaking, or a loss you thought you could never ever survive. Think about those times. That's what hope and resilience is. You know, when you're able to still get up and move through the day. I mean, maybe it's changed you in a way, right? Maybe it's dimmed some of your light. And that's where also we can help, because we can help you heal, so that the experience of these painful, you know, moments in your life, it's not about forgetting it. It's about healing from it. So, because you'll never forget, right? But wouldn't it be awesome if it doesn't have to diminish you, right? If you can feel the depth of the pain without it having to take away your light, wouldn't that be awesome? And the thing is, guys, that is possible. That is possible. And I know it firsthand, because I'm living it. Okay, I'm living it. And I would never have been able to do it without the right supports, without people believing in me, without my faith, without, you know, the right therapist. Like, so when I'm talking here, I'm not just talking out of a textbook, you know, I'm talking out of a lived experience as well. But I don't just want to lead with that. I also want to let you guys know about the science. Like, this stuff is being researched and continually, repeatedly showing the efficacy of it, so to speak. And, you know, according to the Hope Research Center, hope has been repeatedly shown to be the single best predictor for trauma recovery. Okay, that's huge. That's huge, because there's so many different interventions out there, and hope is consistently the number one, or one of the top factors or characteristics that people have that will predict whether they're going to essentially, you know, be okay and have a well-lived, fulfilling life. So that's how important this is. So try not to lose hope, you guys. I know things are really tough and there's a lot of bad news out there, but again, focus on what you can control. Focus on your heart. Your heart. Okay, I have a special prayer that I learned from somebody. And every time I feel conflicted or I start to like get upset at people, you know, like when you're reading stuff and you're just kind of like caught up in it all, as soon as I'm able to recognize that, I pray. I pray for God to make my heart right. Right? And that just immediately gives me a sense of calm and peace, you know, because we're all struggling. We're all trying to make sense of what's happening. I'm talking about the pandemic now and our political environment. You know, we are increasingly getting divided. It is concerning, right? But at the end of the day, what keeps me hopeful are these things I've shared with you and the fact that I refuse to let these divisions and differences change my heart. I still want to respect. I'm going to say that again because I think that's the single ingredient that's missing in this conversation we're having with one another about what's happening in our country. I still want to respect and honor other people's beliefs and preferences. And guess what? I can't do that if my heart isn't right. So that's an example of how prayer and a spiritual orientation and focusing on the things I can control helps me stay hopeful. So hopefully this message gave you some hope, some real practical tools, some inspiration, and I hope that it has also caused you to reflect on maybe considering going to therapy if you find yourself stuck in a cycle. There is no shame in any of this, you know. Let's end the stigma once and for all and just get on with the business of being happier and empowered. Liberate yourself from these, you know, limiting beliefs. Okay? So, again, thank you guys for watching and listening. And like I always say, be well, be gentle, get mental, because we all have issues. Stay strong, everybody. Stay hopeful. Bye.